Hello aspirants. Looking at current affairs for 18th April, the news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 14. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, Law Commission favors simultaneous elections. So we have seen the present government under Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been emphasizing on simultaneous elections. So simultaneous elections to the Lok Sabha and all state legislative assemblies of the country are being proposed. So even Law Commission of India, headed by former Supreme Court Judge Justice B.S. Chauhan, has also released a white paper which recommends holding simultaneous elections to Lok Sabha and assemblies possibly in 2019. So it has suggested even amending the constitution to realize this objective. And this white paper would be circulated to constitutional experts, academia, politicians, political parties, bureaucrats, students, etc. So they have to give their opinions and suggestions by 8 May 2018. So the Law Commission has recommended simultaneous elections because it says earlier there were simultaneous elections held in the country. Once we got independence, up to 1967. There were simultaneous elections, but then certain state legislative assemblies were dissolved in 1968 and 69. So, and also the Lok Sabha was dissolved as such in 1969. So, this resulted in disruption of the conduct of simultaneous elections. So, now it has said that the Niti Aayog as such has also recommended simultaneous elections. It had a working paper on simultaneous elections. So even the Law Commission has given a series of possible recommendations. So these include, number one, Constitution should be amended, Representation of People's Act should be amended, even rules of procedure of Lok Sabha and state assemblies need to be amended. So in 2019 it says elections can be held in phases. So the first phase will be elections to those state legislative assemblies in 2019 who are scheduled to go for polls at that time. So these states will have the elections simultaneously with Lok Sabha in 2019, and rest of the states can go for elections in proximity with the Lok Sabha elections of 2024. So once they align to 2019 and 2024, then simultaneous elections can be held. And the problem is that once simultaneous elections are initiated, even with some adjustments presently 2019 and 2024, but pose that the same problem which we faced in 1967, that some state legislative assemblies are dissolved or Lok Sabha gets dissolved, then what? So in such situation, in the future again we'll have similar situation. So for that matter, the Law Commission has recommended that whenever a no confidence motion is initiated, so no confidence motion should be having simultaneously along with it a suggestion for alternative government. So means whenever no confidence motion is initiated, alternative government should also be there to replace it, so that the dissolution of Lok Sabha does not take place. So this is a suggestion given. But again, in the same matter, if alternative government is not possible, then still the government holds no confidence in the House, still it may continue. So that is a slap on democracy. So that is the main concern. After that, it has suggested that the Law Commission says that even the rigors of anti-defection law in the 10th schedule should be relaxed. Because 10th schedule under anti-defection law, then when defections take place, then it results in issues in the House, that people defect, the politicians, the members of the House defect, and because of that again the numbers change. So if there is anti-defection law is relaxed, then alternative government may also be possible, maybe a suggestion as such. Then another point which is put forth is regarding midterm elections. So even in worst case scenario, if the House is dissolved, Lok Sabha or state assemblies, then whichever new house is appointed, new elections take place, fresh elections take place, and new houses formed, the term of that will only be the remainder part of the Lok Sabha or assemblies, remainder part of the 5-year term. You will not get a fresh 5-year term. So again, that will be an electoral burden too, but this is the suggestion put forth. So also the Law Commission finally suggests that even Prime Minister, Chief Minister should be elected to lead by the full House, like the Lok Sabha Speaker. How the House Lok Sabha elects the Speaker, same way Prime Minister, Chief Minister should also be elected by the full House. So here you can see the key recommendations are put forth which we just discussed. Then next is government attempts damage control as ATMs run dry. So this is regarding the ATMs running dry presently, and the Union Finance Minister says that this is a temporary shortage caused by sudden spurt in demand for currency in the past 3 months in some states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, MP and Bihar. So ATMs are running dry, and the government has assured it's all taking all possible steps to ensure that the cash crunch is not felt. So this is there. Even RBI has said that they are going to increase the supply of currency. It is said that post demonetization, the current cash as such in the economy is much more than pre-demonetization. So when there is already enough cash, then why more cash needs to be brought in through printing new currencies? It says that we'll increase the printing of currencies from rupees 500 crore to 2,500 crore per day. So this is there. And next is in the same news, banks stingy with cash, says ATM industry. So automated teller machine members of the industry, they say that banks are not supplying them with adequate cash. This has resulted in the acute shortage of cash in many parts of the country in April. So it says that it's there across the country except for 1 or 2 states. And earlier it is said banks were meeting 90% of the demand from ATMs. So ATMs, whatever money is required to be stashed in, 90% of it came from banks. But now it has dropped down considerably. Public sector banks are now meeting only 30% of the demand, and private sector banks are meeting 60% of the demand. So this is a huge concern. Also, it is said that out of 2 lakh ATMs in the country, 75% belong to public sector banks. So this ATMs running dry. Generally, ATMs have cash for 2 to 2.5 days as such, but now it is not happening so, and that is why ATMs are running dry quickly. So public sector banks are being asked by the ATM industry members why they are not providing them with cash, because main channel of cash dispensation for banks is the ATMs. Then why are they not providing it with cash? Also, post demonetization, now currency in circulation is more than 100% of the pre-demonetization levels. So when there is enough currency in the economy, then why this cash shortage is felt is a question. So here you can see the details of this is also provided, that how cash currency in circulation has increased drastically after a dip in November, December. But in ATMs, you can see ATM withdrawals, the ATM amount of money in the ATMs, as you can see again in November, December took a dip, and now it has improved but again falling down. And this is regarding the point of sale machines, POS machines, cashless transactions machines. The increase in the transactions through it was seen in November, December, and then again it has fallen down. So this is cashless transactions. ATM, you withdraw cash. So this is there. Then next is fortnightly monsoon forecast soon. So Indian Meteorological Department has said that it will issue fortnightly forecasts of monsoons. Earlier it was only announcing the monsoon's arrival forecast for Kerala, because monsoon arrives first in Kerala around mid-May, and then after that it heads up into the country. So Indian Meteorological Department has said that now it would be providing fortnightly forecasts of monsoon's arrival in states. So once it sets in Kerala, then this will also be initiated from this year onwards. IMD, you should know, Indian Meteorological Department is an organization under Ministry of Earth Science, and presently also a South Asian Climate Outlook Forum's annual conference is going to take place in Pune in this month. So here various other South Asian nations would also be participating. Then another point is that generally monsoon sets in within, like in Maharashtra, it comes within 10 days of landing in Kerala, and then entire country is covered gradually, and by 15th July entire country is covered. But now these schedules have become erratic. Monsoons are arriving at a slower pace. There's a quirkiness in its arrival. Last few years it says that monsoon has been moving slowly, and even stays on not till September but mid-October. So its exit has also been delayed. this is regarding monsoon. And the dynamic model which the IMD uses, the formal name to it is Monsoon Mission Climate Forecasting System. So this simulates the weather on supercomputers and is being used by IMD for present forecasts also, the fortnightly forecasts too. Then next is IAF conducts drill close to China border. So Indian Air Force exercise which is going on presently, Gagan Shakti. So this is an exercise which has begun on April 8 and will continue till April 22. It had this exercise done in the western part of the nation, and now it is taking place in Uttarakhand's Uttarkashi district, around 230 kilometers from Indo-China border. So here also our Indian Air Force is examining the strategic preparedness of its infrastructure in the area. So it's focusing on dealing with a possible security challenge, including from China and Pakistan. So this is Indian Air Force's biggest such exercise in decades, Gagan Shakti. So earlier we saw that Gagan Shakti exercise, I have conducted air operations in the western seaboard to check its deep strike capabilities in the Indian Ocean region too. Pan nation exercise. Then next is prehistoric rock art site unearthed in Guntur. So here in Guntur, a prehistoric rock art site of Neolithic period. So here the paintings which are shown, they are engravings, packings, even brushing which has been used. So motifs on the rocks art sites here on natural limestone is actually first of its kind in the country, and they are giving an insight into social and cultural practices of the ancient civilizations here. So there are different animal motifs too here, like fish, snake, peacock, scorpion. Then also anthropomorphic figures too, like a head in between two hands. Then there are also a picture of a warrior holding a sword and a shield. So such motifs have been seen on this rock art site, which has been unearthed by an amateur archaeologist. So further excavations and research is taking place here. So here you can see Guntur, you should also know, as a site where Buddhism has flourished. So earlier here even stupa has been excavated. Then next is NGT asks Ministry to finalize national policy on forest fires. So National Green Tribunal has a petition filed before it by a senior advocate, and it was demanding that forest fires take place and government needs to take steps. So NGT had asked Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to have the policy in place, but now it has said that this policy has to come into effect. It has to be brought before it within 2 weeks, because forest fires generally take place in the month of April. So we don't have much time. So a policy has to be in place and should be implemented effectively. This is what the NGT is demanding. Then next is panic button on phones set for another round of trial in May. So these panic buttons on mobile phones which the government had announced, the trial is presently going on in Uttar Pradesh, and another round will also take place in May 2018, and then in a phased manner it will be introduced across the country. So the government has directed mobile manufacturers to provide this panic button as such. Earlier it was said it should be rolled out by Jan 2017, then it was delayed by a year, and now trials are taking place. So the main aim is to test the accuracy level in locating the origins of the panic calls. So this testing has seen that it has been within acceptable limits. Even response time here, as in UP the trial is taking place, said the UP police response time was under 15 minutes. And once the trial is successfully completed in UP, it will be extended to other states. And those states which have the police machinery capable of reaching any part of the state within 20 minutes. So here it would be put into effect. So mobile phone manufacturers actually have opposed mandatory GPS on feature phones. So this is there for smartphones presently, not for feature phones. Government wanted for both. But manufacturers say that if feature phones also have mandatory GPS, then it will push up costs. So these steps have been taken for ensuring safety of women. So post the Delhi gang rape case, the Nirbhaya case of 2012, Justice Verma committee was also formed, and this committee had given a series of recommendations which also included setting up public emergency response system. The government is acting on it now. This panic switch button in mobile phones is also being under trial. So here you can see once the user presses the panic button, which can be numeric key 5 or 9 or even the power button, 5 calls will be made to emergency number 1112, which has been integrated with emergency number 100. The next is India-Sweden agree upon win-win joint action plan. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Sweden. He met his Swedish counterpart, the Prime Minister of Sweden, and they have agreed upon a joint action plan to take forward wide range of initiatives in defense, trade and investment, counter-terrorism, renewable energy, smart cities, space, science, health, etc. So in defense sector too, security initiatives also, it has been highlighted. Sweden is interested in its company Saab Group's Gripen E single-engine jet fighter will be acquired for Indian Air Force. So Indian Air Force requirement is a request for information already initiated by the armed forces for fighter jets. So we had discussed that also. The MMRCA, medium multi-role combat aircraft tender, had to be scrapped, and a new initiative has been taken. Armed forces again initiated request for information, because in that last tender, which was won by a French company, the Rafale fighter jets had won it, but then they did not take responsibility for the Make in India aspect to it. So there should be transfer of technology, and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited was supposed to build those Rafale fighter jets in India, but that responsibility was not taken, and eventually the tender was scrapped. Government to government deal was signed, and Rafale was acquired. At least 36 Rafale jets were acquired, 35-36 by the government of India. So that is another controversy. So now a fresh tender is being proposed to be initiated. So the same company, Saab Group, had also contested the earlier tender, and now again Gripen E single engine jet fighter is going to chip in also in this for this tender, trying to prove itself. So that is one aspect in India-Sweden relations with respect to defense sector. Then another aspect is regarding innovation. So in Sweden-India Innovation Partnership, joint declaration has been announced for sustainable future. So a joint statement has come from both the prime ministers as such too. And then for innovation, Sweden has proposed to provide 50 million Swedish kronor, or around $59 million. So this will be for innovation cooperation in the field of smart cities and sustainability. So this is there. Then next is US keen on signing nuclear reactor deal. So India-US nuclear deal was signed in 2009 by then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and after that the civilian nuclear deals were also signed, because under US this nuclear deal was signed because US laws do not allow it to have nuclear trade with India, because India had conducted nuclear tests and it is not part of the nuclear suppliers group as such too. So that is why this waiver was given. India was given a special status, and in 2009 India-US nuclear deal came into effect. And after that USA wanted its companies like GE, Hitachi, and also Westinghouse. So these companies signed MOUs with India to establish nuclear reactors in the country. But so far no US company has been able to have nuclear reactors established, though other countries have come in. Russia has always traditionally been providing nuclear reactors to India, and we have had heightened nuclear cooperation with Russia post that. Kudankulam nuclear power plants are being being provided by Russia. The two companies from US with which MOUs were signed, one was GE Hitachi, but it abandoned this deal with India over insurance liability issues. And Westinghouse, it continued with negotiating with India, but then it faced another problem. It went near bankrupt in 2017. Then it was its parent company Toshiba, which sold it to a Canadian consortium, and now Westinghouse is again wanting to renegotiate and have its nuclear reactor kick-started in the country. So Westinghouse nuclear reactor in India, in Andhra Pradesh, where it is proposed here, it is now said that the Westinghouse company will only supply the reactors. It will not construct the power plants. So this new deal has to be finalized now, and US is keen on this now. So the techno-commercial contract is for 6 AP1000 Westinghouse reactors, and this negotiation has been going on for nearly a decade now. So this is there. The next is China to scrap ownership limits on foreign car makers. So China had earlier announced that it would scrap the limits which are there on foreign ownership for automotive ventures, and now it has announced that this will be scrapped completely by 2022. So this will also take place in a phased manner. First, for companies making fully electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles, the limit on foreign ownership would be scrapped in 2018. Then for makers of commercial vehicles in 2020, and for wider car market by 2022. So this has been announced. So trade tensions between USA and China continue, but China is announcing these initiatives where foreign ownership limits are being scrapped. Even ownership restrictions which came since 1994. So here foreign car makers could not own more than 50% share of any local venture. But now it has announced these limits would be scrapped. Also, China imposed a temporary fee on US sorghum, because US has also banned American companies from selling parts to China's phone maker ZTE. So China has also retaliated on this, and also China has said that it will scrap the limits on foreign ownership in shipbuilding and aircraft industries also in 2018. China is also taking steps to ease the trade tensions, plus also temporary fees being imposed in retaliation to US initiatives. Then next is China-Japan hold reset talks ahead of Abe's US visit. So Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is going to visit US, and in this context, Chinese minister visited in Japan, and the two countries engaged in resetting their once troubled ties. So it is seen that China and Japan both have been affected by the trade restrictions, tariffs which are being imposed by US President Donald Trump. So since Japan is also affected, though in a less severe manner than China, it seems that China and Japan can come together and work on this. Also, China's Belt and Road Initiative. Japan has said we are not averse to it, we will cooperate in that, and Japan has this free and open Indo-Pacific blue policy. So on this also, both countries, if they come together, then they can be less of animosity and cooperation as such. So this is there. Also on Indo-Pacific, Japan sees India, Australia and USA as its main partners in the Indo-Pacific strategy. So China is trying to assert itself in the Indo-Pacific region, and Japan seems to counter it through this quad grouping. So these are tensions also, while they can come closer because of trade tariffs being imposed by USA. The next is India expected to grow at 7.4% in 2018. So this is IMF, International Monetary Fund, in its biannual World Economic Outlook. So in the latest report as such, World Economic Outlook. So again, you should know here for prelims also, World Economic Outlook is published by IMF. It is biannual, means twice in a year. So here IMF has projected India's growth as 7.4% in 2018 and 7.8% in 2019. So in these 2 years, we are going to overtake China, which will have its growth projected as 6.6 and 6.4%. So in 2016 also, India's growth rate was more than China, but then in 2017 we went down. The growth rate came down to 6.7%, and China had 6.9% growth, so it outpaced us. But again in 2018-19 we will have higher growth than China. So the challenges which are there as such, the 2017 also saw the demonetization and GST being implemented. So those were the two prominent challenges as such. But then post that too, India can improve its growth rate as such by responding to the recent concerns which have been raised, like India has high public debt, so it has to achieve the budget deficit targets. So fiscal consolidation is the most important part which has to be put into effect. Apart from that, IMF also says that constraints which are there on job creation, ensuring that demographic dividend is not wasted, easing labor rigidities, reducing infrastructure bottlenecks, improving education outcomes are important. So education, job creation, will help in India achieve higher growth. So growth as such in India has been due to strong private consumption, and China's growth in 2017 has been because of resurgent net exports. So China and India both have seen this aspect pushing their growth further. But investments have been low in both the countries. So investment growth has slowed down. The last news item is glitch delays launch of Planet Hunter. So this is regarding TESS, Transit Exoplanet Survey Satellite. So the private launch vehicle of SpaceX, Falcon 9 rocket, has been scheduled to carry this TESS satellite of NASA. So this has been delayed presently because of some technical glitch. So TESS is going to be a successor to the Kepler Space Telescope. So this Kepler Space Telescope has discovered some 3,700 exoplanets in the past 20 years. And now it is running out of fuel. So TESS is going to work on the same lines. It's a successor to it. And TESS will be able to detect further exoplanets which have rocky surfaces or oceans and are considered best candidates for life to evolve. So TESS has its solar panel rings. It has 4 special cameras. So this will be placed in a highly elliptical orbit, which will be looping it between the Earth and the Moon every 2.5 weeks. So TESS will also use, like Kepler, transit photometry. So transit photometry means it will detect periodic repetitive dip in visible lights from stars caused by planets passing or transiting in front of them. So this is how exoplanets have been discovered and will be discovered by TESS also. So this, you can see the details given. There are cameras, there are solar panels. This is the Falcon SpaceX, which is going to launch TESS, and it will detect exoplanets. So these are the news items. Thank you.